Hello guys, welcome back to another video. I have temporarily crawled out of my cave of incessant circumstantial overwhelm for a very important purpose, and that is poop. I am not joking. We need to have a serious conversation about poo, and I think now is the perfect time because something really amazing is happening for the plant-based health world. We are finally going to have evidence-based, easy to understand resource on plant-based gut health. So before we get too deep into this topic, I think it's important to just let y'all know that there's a TMI warning, okay? If you can't handle poop talk, you should probably leave like 20 seconds ago, okay? Disclaimer's done. I want you guys to remember a year or so back when all of the vegan YouTubers were becoming ex-vegans and they were citing their gut health as the reason they had to give up veganism. And remember some of the conversations that we had about that? We talked about issues with gut dysbiosis, food intolerances, food restriction, past gut health issues, past eating disorders, fasting, overseas travel to places that are known for bacterial, parasitic, and fungal gut infections. We talked about forcing pressurized water into places where it does not belong, like your colon, i.e. colonics. And I can't remember if we talked about this at length, but I know I had some pretty engaging conversations with myself about consuming too many superfoods, including the 2016 trend to eat large amounts of charcoal and fossilized diatoms. Was it a coincidence that everyone suffered from nutrient deficiencies and gut dysbiosis right after they sold you activated charcoal to put in your smoothies? Probably not. But the point is, there was a lot of talk because within the realm of profit-driven social media influencers and health gurus that are all slinging their supplements, our gut health can be derailed in a lot of ways. So during this time of so many vegans falling off the bandwagon and citing gut health issues, one of my favorite podcasts, the Plant Proof podcast, did an interview with the Gut Health MD, who I will refer to as Dr. Will B, for reasons I assume are obvious. Bulsiewicz, my mouth won't do it. Bulsiewicz. I'm sorry, doctor, you deserve better. Anyway, in that episode, Dr. Will B talked about a hypothetical vegan influencer, kind of like an amalgamation of most of us vegan YouTubers. You know, it's like a woman in their 20s or 30s who had eating disorders growing up and often found veganism through some funky, super restrictive diet like fruitarianism, who seems perpetually interested in cleansing. Yeah, it described me pretty well because I grew up chronically constipated, like always struggling to poop, chronic abdominal pain, gas, bloating, and worse. I was on antibiotics all of the time for ear and sinus infections, and anyway, it was awful. Just digestion was awful growing up. I would poop every 2 to 3 days, and my doctor assured me that that was normal, but my stomach always hurt. And then I started having other problems, like breakouts and chronic fatigue, low thyroid function, imbalanced blood sugar, irregular and painful cycles, unstable mental health. I mean, I could go on for hours about what all that was like, but long story short, when I took the advice of experts to eat low-carb diets, like the paleo diet, to fix and heal these problems, they actually all just got worse. And though I did experience quite a bit of relief when I first switched to a plant-based diet, I found veganism through fruitarianism. And while fruitarianism treated me really well for a few months, it felt like my body was just like clearing out a ton of gunk, and to go from so sick to feeling any better was definitely an improvement. Even though it was an improvement, I eventually started having other problems, like symptoms of nutrient deficiencies. And I found that the less variety of food I ate, the fewer foods I was able to tolerate. After being on such a restrictive diet for several months, every time I tried to incorporate other foods like beans, whole grains, most vegetables, or like any cooked food, my digestion would go crazy. It would start with horrible acid reflux. I would just be like burping up stomach acid for hours. It was gross. Then I would get really bloated and I'd start having terrible stomach cramps that would culminate in constipation or diarrhea. or both, which is unfortunately actually possible. I would eat beans and brown rice and kale, and that would be exactly what I pooped out. It was almost like I hadn't even digested it. And of course, I assumed that since eating those foods, foods that are like healthy, like whole grains and legumes, vegetables, nuts, and seeds, caused such an intense negative reaction in my body, I assumed that that proved that these foods were, in fact, unhealthy. So I found myself in the unenviable position of being able to tolerate like 5 foods, and unsurprisingly, those foods were not capable of sustaining me nutritionally. And as I've said in previous videos, at this point, I did consider turning to animal foods because I just didn't know what else to do. I wasn't well, and plant foods weren't doing it, and I just couldn't comfortably eat enough plants. And I hear from several of you almost every time I post pictures of my giant bowls of beans and whole grains and raw vegetables that some of you guys are really seriously struggling to digest these fibrous plant foods, but you're trying to eat them because you've been told that they're, incredibly healthy and healing to the gut. That's what the science tells us anyway. But it's so hard to believe when every time you try to eat them, you get super bloated and experience awful cramps and gas. And though I can tell you my story, which is that I essentially force-fed myself really well-cooked beans, whole grains, and vegetables, and just other cooked foods every single night, and just tolerated the cramps and the gas and the bloating for months on end before my digestion improved, I'm actually not a gastroenterologist. I don't have a medical practice, and it is extremely unwise to make unilateral lifestyle choices based solely on the advice of people like me. Just don't do it. Listen to the experts, please, which is where Dr. Will B's new book, Fiber Fueled, comes in, because he is an extremely well-qualified, extremely well-informed expert who has an active practice coaching patients with symptoms just like yours who are trying to move towards having a balanced and healthy gut. In Fiber Fueled, there are entire chapters dedicated to helping people like us who have had their gut health derailed by antibiotics and the standard Western diet or past restrictive diets that we have utilized in a desperate attempt to try to fix the damage that's been done. And Dr. Will presents all of the information we need to understand why this happened and what is scientifically proven to facilitate healing. And that information is so important because I remember how soothing it was to hear this kind of information when I was healing my own gut sensitivities, because it was not an especially smooth process. The reflux and the bloating and the gas were real. Fiber Fueled also offers a 4-week plan for slowly increasing the healing, fiber-rich foods into your diet so that you can reap the benefits of a healthy gut microbiota without overwhelming yourself with uncomfortable side effects. Because as Dr. B explains so well in Fiber Fueled, we must consume the prebiotic plant fibers that feed the probiotic bacteria that then create healing postbiotic compounds like short-chain fatty acids. This process takes time, and it can come with side effects as populations of gut bacteria come into a better and healthier balance. And I speak from personal experience when I say that it does indeed take time, but it is a self-perpetuating process, and I am still seeing improvements in my gut and my total body health years after I began focusing on eating a wide variety of fiber-rich whole plant foods. It just keeps getting better and easier, and that's like exactly what I wish for every single one of you. A better and more easeful experience of being in your body. And the beautiful thing is that this gut health book actually follows the advice that's offered in every single scientific paper I've ever read about gut health and creating a healthy gut microbiome. I have read so many other books on gut health by gastroenterologists who cite the same or very similar research, and they literally say in their books, this research clearly shows that plant fiber creates gut health, and animal flesh, eggs, and dairy are detrimental to gut health and promote the proliferation of pathogenic bacteria species. But then you flip to the recipe section of their books and you find things like almond-crusted salmon fillets, or almond-crusted roast beef, poached eggs, and turkey bacon with a side of sauerkraut. Like, I have literally stood up and thrown books about gut health across the room. Then, of course, I pick up the book, put the dust cover back on, and return it to the library. So you can probably imagine my relief and joy and excitement when I got a copy of Fiber Fueled, because Dr. B has created an incredible resource that I know I'm going to be going back to and referencing for years to come. And if any of you guys are struggling with your gut health, especially as you try to transition to a plant-based diet, which is supposed to be so gosh darn healthy for your gut, or if you just like geeking out over intestines like I do, definitely consider picking yourself up a coffee. Yeah, just go grab a coffee. Definitely consider getting yourself a copy of Fiber Fueled. And now I'm starting to feel a little concerned that this sounds too much like a sales pitch, because, I mean, you guys know I don't do sponsored videos or posts or anything like that. I just get really jazzed about good books that have a lot of science in them. And I get jazzed about taking really good, satisfying poops. Like, geez, I mean, I've lived a damn good life, and I've had probably more fun than was wise, but there are few joys more lasting and meaningful to my day-to-day quality of life than pooping good. And I just wish that unparalleled ecstasy for all of you. Alright, so there's a link down below to Fiber Fueled. It's an Amazon link. If you click it and you end up buying the book, I'll make like 2 cents, and that's always really useful towards paying my bills. So hey, if you want to click it, great, thanks. Otherwise, I'm just super happy that we got to have this talk, and thank you so much. I am going to skedaddle and go enjoy some epic whole plant foods. Absolutely packed with fiber, just totally chocked full. Hashtag Fiber Fueled. There is breakfast. I had cilantro on my face this whole time. Okay, so breakfast is a big old fruit bowl with some soaked oats. They were soaked in soy milk and water with a little bit of cinnamon. Apples, bananas, mangoes, some antioxidant blend frozen fruits, and then some dates on top just for, you know, a little bit more sweetness, because who doesn't need more sweetness in their life? And of course, I added in my usual morning flax seeds. As Dr. Will B notes in Fiber Fueled, ground flax seeds have a really special type of prebiotic fiber inside that feeds the probiotics in our intestines and promotes the creation of those wonderful nourishing postbiotics. And on that note, I am going to enjoy this big bowl of fiberful food while I get the rest of my fiberful food ready for the rest of the day. a good like hour, 20 minutes, hour half of prep, and I'm going to have food for several days. Delicious, fiber-rich whole plant foods. And I am now going to sit down to my lunch, which is a beautiful cabbage and veggie, and dog hair salad I made enough of for a couple days. I also cooked off probably about 6 pounds of these big, beautiful purple sweet potatoes. And then I realized a few minutes ago that I don't actually have leftover beans from last night, which is really unusual, but it's just as well. I opened up a can of low-sodium vegetarian refried beans. So I find that the refried beans were a great option for me as I was transitioning. They didn't bother my stomach as much or cause as much like bloating or discomfort, just because they are a little bit more like mushed up and almost, God, I don't want to say pre-digested, but it's almost pre-digested. We don't have to get into too many visuals, but suffice to say, they are delicious and a good option for me. So this is going to be lunch. I'm going to go get some other work done, and I will see you guys for dinner. It is just about dinner time, and since everything was pre-made, I went ahead and made my plates and bowl. It's very unusual for me to break up my food like this. So I have beautiful potato salad that I made this afternoon. The recipe is in the description box below, so don't worry. I have more of that cabbage and veggie salad, and then here is a beautiful curried veggie dal, we'll call it. It has a little bit of marinated tofu on top, just marinated with plain old tamari and garlic, really simple, and it's made with split peas. And I really liked split peas as a transition food because, I mean, for starters, I just cook the heck out of them. And to be honest, I overcook most of the legumes that I eat. I'm a big fan of smushy, mushy beans. It's just my thing. I don't like the al dente beans. And when I was transitioning onto a wider variety of whole plant foods that were very fiber rich, I found that well-cooked or even overcooked legumes treated my digestive tract a lot better than the more undercooked, al dente cooked, or traditionally prepared beans. Thank you guys so much for watching. As usual, it's been really fun to spend some time together. I hope you all are doing well. I know it's weird times for all of us. Just know that you guys are all on my mind, and I'm sending you all so much love. And as always, make better choices for yourselves. No one's gonna do it for you, and take really, really good care of your sweet selves. I will see you all as soon as possible. Bye. I almost forgot to hide the Pepto-Bismol. Wouldn't that have been funny? It was for my dog. He was very sick for a couple days.